Welcome to our next adventure with Chemology 411, a podcast about anything and everything. Kim and her guests will take you behind the scenes, behind the story, or behind the bar. So sit back. Make sure your seatbelt is fastened, tray table in its upright position, all carry-ons stored under the seats. But for this adventure, electronic devices must remain on, as we are ready to take off on our next adventure. Introducing Kim Schultz and Chemology 411.
Welcome to episode 9. This episode, we're going to talk about our book collections. I'm Kim Schultz, and I'm your adventure coordinator for this show. Let's say hi to my co-host, Tyson Harley.
Hello. That's an implied hello and hi, the way you said it, so I appreciate that. So, it's been a week, and why did I write that? I've got my show notes, and it's like, what does that even mean? Can I bring up something real quick?
You sure can.
Did you recently shared with me, this is just a brief aside before we get into our main topic, something about... Okay, first of all, that Impossible Burger, which supposedly you said last time was the reason they've had one of their better quarters, and I'm like, Burger King's Impossible Burger.
I did not say that.
Oh, I thought I read that, or you just said, or someone else said it to me. Anyway, that you had pointed out that there was an article, it's probably the details in the article, where someone was suing Burger King because the Impossible Burger was not cooked in an entirely separate area.
Right.
And therefore, while trying to be vegan, I'm like, McFly, he said this is not fair because I could have actually got meat when I didn't mean to get meat. Well, it's like, well, dude, you're having an Impossible Burger at a place that also serves meat, dummy. Right. So anyway, I thought that was very interesting.
And I said
someone's
that to
suing
you.
About the Impossible Burger
Because they don't have their own grill for it.
So they're not using a totally separate
So maybe we just don't do it. Why are we going to cater to you?
Yeah,
don't cater to you. Don't. See, that's what
that's go to Burger King. I mean, what are they suing for? $2.75?
Right. Right. And my thing is this. Once again,
it's fast food.
you want to do something that's out, in your own stuff. You want to be a vegetarian or vegan, and that's perfectly fine. Or you want to do keto, or you want to do low fat, or whatever. But please stop telling the restaurants that they have to go to what you want. And then when they do what you want, now you want to sue them because they're not going to spend millions of dollars to go sell 12 Impossible Burgers. Because these Impossible Burgers are probably going to be pretty limited. Like, I can't imagine them being something that they continually have and sell tons of them.
I think they're going to.
There they are.
I think there's a big push. You'll see these pushes in other places in the news about the, how we've got to get off of this meat cycle because of the whole bad for the planet narrative. So they're going to be trying to push these things that are, it is an alternative to meat.
But
this is the beginning. I shouldn't say the beginning, but one of the initial mileposts along this.
Well, you push your agenda, and then you expect someone to pay millions of dollars to add a new grill to their restaurant, to restructure the whole entire kitchen.
Do it yourself then, as I said.
It's like, go eat at home. So when someone says, well, I do this diet and I can't go eat because I'm going to do this. Okay, go eat at home. Because I literally, when I go to a restaurant, if you were to say, hey, let's go out to eat, I'm going to find something to go eat. I do not like seafood. If you took me to a seafood restaurant, I can find something on that menu to eat. I'm not going to sit there and go, do you cook seafood around my salad? Because seafood could get on my salad and I could almost eat seafood. Now, if I was allergic to shellfish,
sure,
are you gonna go to a seafood restaurant?
Probably not the best idea.
Probably not.
You really know what the manager is going to give you the right answer, or the person up front, or they don't.
Right.
Know.
So you have your restrictions and stuff like that. We're gonna sue because that's all we do. They're really trying to help out. And I didn't know that the fat is meat. They're not going to get a piece of meat. That's just ridiculous to me. I'm sorry. If you're out there being a vegetarian and all this stuff, good for you. but not
you mean
for
the
me.
fat in the Impossible Burger? Or
No,
what?
the fat on the hamburger might lean over and touch the Impossible
Right,
Burger.
right.
But the meat is not going to, it's a patty. So it's not
Right.
like they're going to go,
Gotcha.
oh, this chunk fell off. I don't know which one it is. It looks so much like the Impossible Burger. They're going to throw a chunk on. They're not going to serve a burger that
Yeah,
broke
why don't you
up.
just go to a vegan place and then you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Anyway, I thought that was funny. Also, later, I might want to do an excursion on nativity because I got some funny observations on that.
Nativity?
Nativity, like a nativity scene.
Oh, yeah.
But let's get to our main stuff for now.
All right, so really today we wanted to go right into it and talk about. In one of our episodes, Tyson was talking about what he wanted for Christmas, and he continually asks for books. And we all found out Kim doesn't really read. I listened to my books, and he was going to restart the whole world when everything is destroyed. The Kindles don't work anymore. Everyone's going to go to Tyson's house, and we're gonna restart the world.
We'll have a head start. Let's put it that way. And I keep old like physics books around.
Oh my gosh!
Like I went through a lot of schooling between, just regular secondary and elementary, plus advanced naval schooling, and then not deciding what my major was going to be after that. Not because I kept being stubborn and thinking they'd be giving me more credits for all the stuff that I did in the military. So my undergrad, I finished with. What's regular undergrad? 120-ish? I finished with like 150, and then I also have a doctorate. So I've been through a lot of schooling, and I've kept a lot of my books from there.
I just donate it. I think I don't.
I need to get rid of some of my basic ones, but I'm like, well,
some.
why would I get rid of a calculus one? I might as well just keep it. It's just a little bit of space.
Just for some light reading.
Yeah, I'm not saying I open it ever, but it's just hard for me to get rid of it.
Well,
so yeah, it would be a good start if they happen to come up in the rubble. They happen to dig the right way.
It'll be like,
it'd be
what
like,
are these things? What are these books?
This carcass used to be a fuzzy cat. Is this possibly Tyson Harley's home?
We found the book, or it's like
we found the books.
There's a television show called The 100, and they go back down to Earth after 100 years of being up on this ship because of the nuclear war, and then they're down there and they're like digging through stuff. They're gonna dig through, and they're gonna find these books, and they're gonna be like, what? When all this stuff happened? This is calculus. What
like
is calculus?
Like you said, forgot what you said, Kindle.
Yeah.
Post Kindle.
Not gonna happen. So anyway, we'll start out like you have tons of different stuff, but it was kind of funny the other day when I was going through my house and I was cleaning things. I found these stray books all over my house in just different areas because I don't have a bookshelf. I've got my DVDs for my movies, but I don't have a bookshelf. And so for not the purpose of anyone reading them, but for the purpose of making people laugh, I took my huge library of books and I put them up on top of my file cabinet.
It must have been a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
Your huge library.
That
Tell us more.
That fits on top of it. So anyway, I just threw them up there. But then Tyson, we were talking about it at one of the shows, and I showed him my books, and he looked at them and he started laughing. And so he put them in order for me. So I have order. So we're going to go over the order of my library. We wouldn't be able to do this to Tyson's because it would take like all day. But mine, I think, is pretty simple.
Kind of a built-in story. Like you could make up a story around those very basic plot points. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is kind of fun. So you kind of see where my brain goes, and a lot of these, I bought one. The rest of them have been given to me as gifts. No, I bought two. I'm sorry, I bought two. So the first one is called "Defining a Really Great Boss." Then the second one is "Think and Grow Rich."
Classic.
Number 2 is "Beach Money." Number 3 is...
You're off by one.
I am?
You moved Defining the Rich. So anyway, just add one number. After Beach Money, you've got...
Beach Money. I have Good Daily Practices.
Okay, so think about this. Defining the Really Great Boss. Think and Grow Rich Beach Money. We're talking financial success.
Right?
And good daily practices too. And so what's next?
Tickle his pickle.
Of course.
And then for his glory.
Of course. This just makes sense. And after that, what happens?
A year of miracles.
Absolutely. Financial and other types of miracles.
And then we have Passion Party Guide to Good Sex.
So the story kind of has already been told by the time you get to there. But it kind of yeah, that makes sense.
But everything I need to know about family, I learned from a little golden book.
Well, you didn't learn that other stuff from a golden book. Not that I know.
I don't know. We're going to have to go through that book sometime.
No pickle tickling and golden books as far as... Now, that might have been a Dr. Seuss after because it kind of rhymes. Maybe those are the ones where it's like... and he just put it in his...
It's the adult Dr. Seuss books.
So, yeah, that was quite a collection. Actually, there's one other one.
Oh, yeah. We have the other one, the social media marketing for dummies.
Yeah, so you see where she's coming from.
Yeah.
But you do have a lot of the things you read in high school and stuff. Did you want to talk about some of those?
Oh, yeah. So I did actually read at one point in my life. I hated every minute of it, but I found a book series because I am a very morbid person, evidently, in high school. Because if you've read these books, I love them. I could read a book, for not being a reader, these are pretty big books. I could read these in like 4 or 5 days because I couldn't put them down. And they are all from, the author is John Saul. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but I'm not really a fiction reader, so go ahead.
Suffer the Children, Comes the Blind Fury, Second Child, and When the Wind Blows.
So these are
they're us like
kind of
ghosts come in. Like there's always like a ghost or an evil spirit, and they torture people. And they are not. I mean, they're so. I don't know why I was so into those books back when I was in high school, but it kept my attention.
Sounds macabre.
And so they're actually really good books, and I thought about getting some on audio tape so I could re-listen to them because I literally remember some of the parts of them, but I don't really remember them, and that was like 40 years ago. But my friend down in Atlanta, he has books, and he does all the Stephen King, and he has all the John Saul books there, and he was like, these are the really good books, and I thought, we're both morbid.
That, by the way, that is a nice catch to have that overlap with a friend that you found.
Yeah, because I was like, because I thought, am I a crazy person? He's like, no, Kim, they're really good.
If anybody's listening who can do this type of thing, my always beloved side hustle possibility would be to be a book reader. Like, I would love to do that. And like, boys, for what it's worth, but that's neither here nor there. I just thought of that at the time because you're also about to talk about other formats of books.
Right. So then they came out with the cassette tape books. And what I found is that by that time I had my daughter and I had daycare, and there's just no time to read with a kid unless you're reading the kid books. So I got the tapes and I would listen to them at the gym when I went to go do the Stairmaster back in the day, or I'd get on the treadmill, or I would walk, and I would have my Walkman with my little cassette tapes in it, which are a pain in the butt at the gym because you have to flip the tape over, then you got to go over and get it. And then I eventually moved to my iPod. So I went through the cassettes to the CDs to the iPod. And I started listening to Sue Grafton, and she has the Alphabet series of she had a Kinsey Milhone is the private investigator. There's all these different crimes that she solves or mysteries that she solves, like A for alibi, B for burglar, C for corpse. And then, of course, her last one was Y for yesterday, and then she passed away of cancer. So nosy.
Is this, you have a title for the C one? Is that, were you messing with me, or is that the actual name, the rest of the name?
No, it's...
Oh. She put on one line. I'm like, what kind of a title is this? She put on one line before she put Y is for yesterday. She put C is for corpse all the way to Y. Then she passed away before Z. I'm like, that's quite a book title. There was some famous cat series that was... It wasn't Sue Grafton, but there's a famous. I'm like, wow, the rest of them are so short and concise. A's for alibi, B is for burglar, C is for corpse all the way to Y. Then she passed away before Z. I'm like, oh, she got a zinger there. I don't know what's going on. Sue Grafton threw us for a loop with that one.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
There's some kind of cat series that my sister, the cat that came in from the cold. No, that's all right. But it was always the cat who passed gas. That's not right either. Yeah. But it was, the cat who, or the cat that. And it was a whole series. So it kind of reminds me of that. But that's one of them that my sister would read.
So yeah, those are really good books. So I actually, every time they came out, those are the ones I would get. I don't own them. I would just rent them from the library. The library has them all. But now so this is 19, 18. In 17, I added to my lifestyle change that I had to read 20 books a year. Well, previously, the year before, I had given myself that I had to read one book, and I failed. It's still in the garage. It was kind of like once again, it was more of a murders kind of mystery. It was an insane asylum, medical, and it's in the garage. I got halfway through, and then they got wet at the pool, and then it swelled up, and it's like a little book, and I think it's still out in the garage. I didn't finish it, and I was like, Kim, you're not good at this book stuff. Not good.
That's okay. We've got alternatives in the 21st century.
So when I found out about the library, I decided to listen to my books, and I have not listened to anything that's like gross. I have 3 different kinds of books that I'm going to listen to. I'm going to listen to the autobiographies. I love them. So I am listening to, I still have like 2 hours left of Michelle Obama's book. Mm-hmm. I listened to Tina Fey. Rob Lowe has 2. Anna Kendrick's, Amy Poehler.
Yeah.
Steve
Those are
Jobs.
some couple of funny girls right there, Tina and Amy.
Great books. I enjoyed every single one of them.
Whenever, I know this is so obvious, but it's also true. Because, guys are known for being funny, but I get like this weird intellectual crush when a woman is very funny, because I think that's some level of brilliance to be able to be that funny. You have a crush on me
because I'm so funny?
I'm not going to go into that. I was talking, though, specifically about Tina and Amy. It's like, if they're even a little cute and they're very funny, it's like I'm at least fairly fascinated by it. It doesn't mean I'm like, oh my gosh, but... yeah, I love women who are just naturally, funny. I think it's a certain gift. Obviously, so many stand-ups are men because it's a weird lifestyle. I am. Right? But as far as like those girls that got Saturday Night Live and those types of starts, yeah. And for instance, the Ghost. But I know this is an aside, but the Ghostbusters too, with all those funny female actors. Oh my gosh, they were all great. But anyway, I kind of went on an aside there. Took you away from your list of books.
Just to go on another side with this, you're talking about women comedians. On Amazon, there is a series called Miss Maisel, and it's back like in the 50s. Or I don't even about that time, and she's actually working to be a comedian, a female comedian, and they're not there. So I'm only on season 1. It's a really good show. Okay. So if you like that, it's
you said on Amazon.
It's on Amazon Prime, and it's called Miss Maisel. And it starts out, she's married, and it's kind of funny because every night she goes to bed, and then as soon as he falls asleep, she gets up and puts all the cold cream on her face, puts all the stuff in her hair, goes back to bed, gets up before he's there, so takes it off, puts all of her makeup back on, puts her hair perfect, and then she lays back down, and then the alarm goes off, and she's like, I just wake up beautiful like this. Yes. And so anyway, and then it goes through her starting to be a comic, and they're just not prevalent out there. So I like those. The second kind that I like they're my guilty pleasures of my little detective ones that are kind of like a Hallmark movie. So I have Cleo Coyle, She does like a coffee shop. So like her character owns a coffee shop. Diane Mott Davidson. Now her main character is a caterer, Goldie
Gotcha.
Schultz. And so I have those different seasons of books, and there's 17 of the books in each season because they're not new. So I go on and I do those. But my third ones are the business development and the motivational ones
Sure.
that I need. And when
The biographies kind of cross over that because you're hearing somebody's story.
I'm hearing the story, but they're not telling me.
Not exactly like I shouldn't say instructional, but more like that. Like,
Right.
Specifically for it. Okay, and what type of books on this list are those?
So the book that made the biggest difference in my life is You're a Badass, and You're a Badass at Making Money by Jensen Cyrano. Basically, one of my problems that I have with life is that I don't believe that I deserve to have money. Because I just want to help everybody. So I always take on people who don't have a lot of money, and I want to make sure that they're taken care of and help them out. And I'm talking in the business
It's like
sense.
rooting for the underdog. It's
Always.
wanting to find the successful person's already successful. So why would you want to help them so much when you
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I've always done that. And so it's really kind of hard because you see people out there and they're making all this money, and you have this tendency to be like, they're bad people. I can't believe it. And so we have been kind of taught that, money is he's playing with my handcuffs.
Okay.
They're children's handcuffs.
Just nervous.
He's closing them.
Now I'm shuffling nervously with the papers.
Wait, I'm going to move this bottle right there and see how long it takes him to move it back over.
Oh, no, I'm not.
I'm just joking.
You down with OCD? Yeah, you know me. Anyway.
He did push the bottle back on the table. That's funny. So anyway, it's like I can be a millionaire and I can still be a good person. And I think
a lot of us struggle with that, even if we didn't grow up with, like, I grew up in a upper middle class family, definitely not rich, but like in that area, fairly prominent family because my father was a school administrator, and in small towns that makes decent money if they're high enough level.
Right.
But so I was never taught that, people who like make a lot of money are bad people. But I think part of it is so much more so now it's like we see income redistribution, and it's worse than it's ever been as far as it's not being evenly. There's for a lot of reasons for that. So if you're ever likely to think, well, that person's not making money the right way, the blah, 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 it's more likely now because we have such gaps. And the people at the top, but you got to remember the people at the top are far different than the people who are only making 100 or 150,000.
Right.
You got people who are worth 100 billion. If not, you got people who are worth 60, 65 billion.
Yeah.
So we got to remember not to overreact to that, to your point.
Yeah, so those books right there, those two books got my mindset going of like...
You're a badass, and you're a badass
at making money. Those were really, really... And Jensen Cyrano is the author there.
And that's a female author? Uh-huh. What's the first name?
Jen.
Oh, okay. I heard Jensen something.
Jensen Cyrano. Her last name is Cyrano.
Oh, gotcha.
I think I said it right.
And Girl, wash your face.
Okay, so that was like the number one book. Everybody said, Kim, you have to read this book. And I don't know the author of this book because I made it through like half of the book and I couldn't do it anymore. And the reason I couldn't finish that book was I think she's a younger author with small children. So a lot of it had to do with being a professional and how to be a parent at the same time. And I've already done that.
Right.
Been there, done that. Don't need to be told how to be a parent. And so I didn't even make it. And maybe it's to the end. It's better. I don't know. So that was one of them that just bothered me.
Below. I didn't realize that went together. So that's
I didn't finish it. Yeah.
Okay. But what is that broad? Okay. Why the title? I'm just interested.
I don't know. It's just a business book.
Didn't even necessarily make the connection.
Maybe her face was dirty. I don't know. I honestly, it wasn't one of my favorites. I tried.
At least an interesting title.
Yeah.
Like now they've got books that's just to draw attention, and it kind of bothers me because I'm old-fashioned in a way, like in this particular way. I don't find any good reason for people to walk around with curse words on their shirts just because.
Right.
And now they got the big one right on, at least implied in book titles.
Oh, yeah.
Like, get the F out of your own way, or whatever.
Right.
You know, it's like, it's things like that.
Hashtag.
It's like, really? All right.
Yeah, so I loved how successful people think. Super You was good. Blink is such a good book. Blink is all about how your brain works, and you blink and something goes on. So, like, one of the examples is everybody always thinks, like, I'm psychic. But really, we're not, because our brain is such a huge machine that it's already calculated, and it knows way before the other senses know. So one of the things was, and a fireman goes into a burning house, and he gets this feeling that says, get the men out. And so he says, get out of the house. And then the whole floor claps in. He goes, I was psychic or something like that. And reality is your brain is already it does everything. You're not in control of it. Your brain goes, it's hot. The floor's this. Because of your experience, your brain absorbs all that. It's a great book.
Sounds good.
Super You.
You have that twice.
Oh, I like it twice. Girl Boss. I think this was the book that, and I could be wrong, but one of them is they had made a Netflix a series out of it, and I'm reading this book about this girl who. She wanted a pair of no, that's not her. She wanted something, so she goes and she starts selling vintage clothes, and I think that's her. And I'm reading the book, and I see the ad, and it's like she's gonna get her Netflix series. I'm gonna look it up just because I want to make sure that I'm talking about the right one, because I think that's the right one. Girl Boss.
Here, I'll waste some time, even though I'm not wasting time, even though...
You talk.
So here's the type of books I like, even though, again, my library is sometimes aspirational. We have... All of you probably have a Spirit, Mind, Body Fair or the like nearby. And if there's some, as I say, crazy book guy who has the book area, I say that as a term of endearment. These are the types of books I like. For instance, The Story of Creation According to Sacred Geometry, How the World is Made. And it goes into, pi and all the very basic, geometry of the world and creation. That's a classic. So anything from Spirit, Mind, Body Fair I like. So it looks like you found your stuff.
I did. So yes, this is the right book. So she's
hashtag
Girl Boss. So it's Sophia Amruso, and she has, because she's got season 2. So I'm reading this book, and she's talking about, she's got all this, she's grown her business. She's got, warehouses now. She's selling this vintage stuff. And now she's on a book tour, and I'm reading this book, and I hear Netflix is coming out. And I like to, before the book was over, I looked her up. And it's like, she got divorced, and she's lost everything. And so then I'm reading more, and her workers are like, she lost track of her business and started focusing on this book tour.
Yeah.
And she kind of went from running the business to over here, and then she ended up, I guess, getting divorced or whatever. So I thought it was kind of, she's in there and telling you, like, this is how awesome I am. And you're like, but she hasn't got divorced yet and lost everything. So, it's just kind of how the life works. But she's picked herself up, and she's made herself better. I mean, she learned from it. She didn't stop. But
yeah, and something about that, just as an aside, would be the idea that, for me, that as an introvert, one of the things it seems like is like every field is getting more crowded. And one thing that can separate you is somehow that they know you. But if you're not careful, then it's like, how does the next person who wants to do vintage clothing separate themselves at all from all the other thousands of vintage clothing stores in any 700 square mile area? I shouldn't say that, but 700 by 700, say, or up in Chicago. How do you even begin to separate yourself in any significant way outside of, I can pay the bills? And one is to become kind of the personality, but then that's a fine line, right?
Right. So, I mean, you get, like, I've got a couple people in Topeka, not a lot, a couple people have written books. And it's the new thing now. Everybody's writing a book. It's like this podcast. Instead of writing a book, because I'm not going to probably write a book. Well, I am writing a book, and we'll talk. That's a whole nother podcast to talk about what that book's about. I really can't probably release it because I don't want someone else to write it. But this podcast to me is my book. It's like what would be in the chapters of my book. And so that's kind of what I did. This is my audio book, and I'm just doing it by episodes as opposed to chapters, because I have things that I want to say, but I don't care about books, and people like to listen and watch videos nowadays, and so that's why I kind of did the podcast. But anyway, those are my books. So
what I got is basically, like I said, anything at Spirit, Mind, Body Fair, I'm interested in those types of things. And when I say that, I think, things about consciousness.
Okay.
Things about, esoteric knowledge, or maybe ancient knowledge that's not emphasized anymore because we're always into high-tech this, high-tech that.
Right.
Basics, and did we lose some because of some knowledge? Because, anything with the pyramids would fascinate me. I don't watch any of the ancient alien stuff, but I'm interested in that stuff. Right. So my library has a lot of stuff on the pyramids, has a lot of stuff on anything that's kind of not so much alternative history, but I would say is that alternative history is really sometimes just not the marketed history.
Right.
And so if there's something where you go, well, no, actually there's really good evidence for that people just never talk about it. I have a lot of those books, whether that's about the medical stuff where, well, in the U.S., the most expensive thing wins because I was starting to talk about this in my other episode, my own Tyson Harley episode, but the problem is that we don't, when the FDA approves something, they don't have a cost effectiveness ratio. So if there's already an existing solution and it costs X amount of dollars, and then someone comes along and says, will you approve this solution? And it is the same effectiveness, but it literally costs 20 times as much.
Right.
The law is such that then, at least for like Medicaid and the like, they have to pay for that second solution that costs 20 times as much, but it has the same effectiveness.
Right.
So because of that, we lean towards the more complicated and the more expensive because they can bill more on it.
Right.
But that doesn't mean there's not simple and more natural things. And so I have a lot of stuff on health and anti-cancer and this and that. I've got a lot of books on that. One I'm reading currently that I got is called Day of Deceit. This is by a Robert Stinnett. It's actually 1999, but it's around how far advanced knowledge we actually really did have of Pearl Harbor, which would be interesting right now because Midway's out. So World War II. And the truth of the matter is, and I'd be curious as to how the Midway movie, how they portray the code breaking. There's a code breaking aspect of World War II.
So Midway is a World War II
Midway is the Battle of Midway, and it's kind of like the Dunkirk. From what I've heard, it's kind of like the American version of Dunkirk, as far as how the movie was made. But it's pretty big and epic. I haven't seen it yet, but it's about the Battle of Midway, which was that pivotal battle to take back the Pacific. And in it, therefore, it's important because it's right in the middle of World War II and the idea of what did we know about the Japanese codes and when did we know it? And for the long time, the narrative was that, we didn't break those until after a blow of 1942. And the truth is, and it's kind of like another book I have called 1491, is that no, there's been a lot of very good evidence laid down years and years ago that the usual narrative, Roosevelt and they didn't know anything. No, they knew the codes a long time. Like, they knew a lot of these codes in 1940. Now, Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. Not saying they knew all of them, but they knew a lot of the codes, the Japanese codes, back in 1940. So that's the type of book I like. 1491 is another book where, what do they tell you? Our education always tries to simplify things. They want simple narratives, and there's no good reason, because a kid can learn that things are complicated.
Right.
You know, and this is not necessarily the full story. And in fact, it's almost more fascinating not to have a pat answer, because you understand then that, hey, some people think this. If you're telling a 10-year-old who's curious, like I was curious, hey, some people think this, but other people think this, and it's far different.
Right.
I mean, that's going to catch my interest more than, well, this is just the way it is, and this is a pat answer. And when you're growing up, you know, it's kind of the politically correct thing, but I don't mean to lay all on the feet of political correctness. But is that, what do we hear about Indians, Native Americans? Right. Well, they hardly touch the earth when they walk. You know, they don't damage the earth. It's the white people who do.
Right.
You know, and that whole thing, and the truth of the matter, and has been known for a while. The guy's named Mann, M-A-N-N. I can't think of his. A book called 1491, like the year before Columbus landed. You know, 1492.
Right.
And he goes through all the history. We perfectly well know, but we don't include it in our narratives of there being massive civilization in North America and really throughout the Americas before 1492. And so much of it was very settled civilization, like very settled settlements and cities. And you kind of hear this when you hear about the Aztecs and the Mayans, right? That they had giant cities, cities of tens to hundreds of thousands. But the thing is, that happened all the way up through all of regular America too. And so when I find something where it's really well established and well cited, and it kind of leads the field, I like that stuff.
Right.
And 1491 says, you know, the academics have known it for a long time, but it doesn't hit the main narrative for whatever reason. You hear bits and pieces, so that type of thing. In fact, I even had Darwin's Black Box, which was one of the most influential. I still have it, I think. I think I let my sister borrow it once, and I can't remember if I got it back. Darwin's Black Box made the first really good scientific argument for, hey, evolution isn't so pat as we think. Right. There might be some more complex things going on. Now, for me, that doesn't point to a Christian God, per se. That's not the logical necessity. But it does go, guys, you're missing a lot of big leaps. And he goes into a lot of very specific things as regards, you know, things like how the cellular transport system and things like that. So Darwin's Black Box, 1491, Day of Deceit, those types of things. And the other thing is, growing up, I did like more fiction. And the fiction I like is like, think of Tom Clancy, except I didn't read Tom Clancy. You know, like Hunt for Red October, but there's like Stephen Kuntz.
Yeah, okay, I know. I've
Dean Kuntz, who's horror.
Oh, I've done Dean Kuntz.
Stephen Kuntz.
I think Dean Kuntz is Who's in My Garage.
And he was in he has more of a Navy background.
Okay.
And so that, and then I did like, everybody read a little bit of Stephen King.
I never did.
And
He's
then,
creepy.
like when I was a kid, A Wrinkle in Time was one that I liked.
I've heard of
excellent.
that one.
Well, you know, Oprah and some other people made that into a movie here about, what, year and a half
that's
ago?
how it did.
And I didn't see it yet. I kind of don't want to ruin the little world I made in my head about it.
Right.
You know, so, yeah, those are the type of books that I like. Or at least that would be the brief overview. Kind of out there. And some of it is, I don't like to be offended. I don't want, you can't say that. Like, I don't have a flat earth book, and I doubt there's been even any published.
Right.
But if there was, I might buy it. Doesn't mean I believe it. You know, so David Icke books, if anybody knows that's far, 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 far out conspiracy theory stuff. By the way, that drives me crazy, that term.
What, conspiracy theories?
Yeah. If you look up the Pearl Harbor thing, there's a article called something about the pre-knowledge of Pearl Harbor conspiracy theory is the name of the Wikipedia article. But David Icke literally is a person who brought into main term knowledge the idea of whether or not there are reptilians. You heard this, right?
Right.
he was out front going, reptilians. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know about all that, but it's interesting. So I've got David Icke books because he's not scared and he'll go cover things. He's got very interesting books. But the thing is, in all those books where it's like, yeah, maybe some of this is true, separate the wheat from the chaff.
Right.
And a lot of it may not true, but you're introduced to ideas, and maybe someone's only right 1/4 of the time, but they're covering very interesting topics. So then you kind of bookmark that in your head. I will need to go verify that later. I need to go confirm that later.
So you kind of like, when you're reading those kind of books, does your brain click like that makes, yeah, that's real? Or do you read it and you're like, nah.
It's more like right away I want to go, that doesn't seem right, or that's possible, that's interesting. And I tend towards that's possible. That doesn't mean later on I don't come to a conclusion that says, yeah, I wasn't big on that. Like, I'll even have books when I say, Spirit, Mind, Body Fair, crazy book guy.
Right.
I mean,
so do you do a psychic? Do you go to psychics?
I never do, except I finally did on the last Spirit, Mind, Body Fair. But he wasn't so much a psychic so much as kind of like a life coach, which is not really what I was going for. I said to my sister...
Well, we'll go.
I said to my sister, I said, you know what, this time I might actually spend and actually do a psychic reading. It was almost more like a life coach thing, and so it's not quite what how you're trying to decide who to go to. It's like, I don't have any idea. So I did go last time, but usually I don't.
So we'll go to Joe downtown when she's in there. Joe Flowers, she's down like an 8th. Well, I'll take you over there. That's who I go to. She's awesome.
So those are, and if you guys have any questions about, hey, heard you're interested in this type of topic, can you be more specific? Can you name any? I'm sure you would name some.
Right.
Or have any questions about that and go, well, sounds like you have an interesting library along that kind of strange and weird, which I love.
Right.
But I also like anything that's like a really good, like a document, almost like I've got a book that's a big format, and it basically has hieroglyphs from all over Egypt, where they've made it turns out that the Germans went there and made a lot of diagrams, and if you will, what do you call it when you put paper over rock and you kind of, take the side of a pencil or side of a, you know what I mean? And you get the design.
Uh-huh.
So they basically got those designs, and it's all in one book.
Oh, wow.
Just hundreds of pages of the details of different hieroglyphs and things like that. So that's the type of stuff I like.
Well, I was thinking, because you were talking about we're talking about the movie, and you've read the book, and then Oprah made the movie.
Wrinkle in Time, yeah.
So Harry Potter, I listened to all those books. It was something that I did with my daughter when they first came out. She was younger, and we listened to all the books together except the final book. She was in high school, so she didn't want to sit down with her mom and listen to that book. She actually read the book because she's a good reader, and I listened to that book, and then we've seen all the movies. But when I started listening to books, I found Dennis Lehane was an author, and he wrote a book called The Drop, and it's kind of a gangster one, but he also wrote Mystic River, and that's a movie.
Right.
And so I read the book, and then I found out it was a movie, and it has Sean Penn and in it, and some other people, and it's still kind of a mobster kind of movie, and it was the first one that I watched, and I was like, oh my gosh, the book was so much better because the book had so much more information in it. Right. Harry Potter, the same thing, but there's so much information in the book that your brain can't even think about it. But in that book,
3 hours is enough. They got enough stuff.
Yeah, it's they tried, but you still go, they've left this part out, but you really can't because the books are so long. There's so much going on. You're not going to remember it. But with Dennis Lehane, that was a really good book. The Drop was really good, and so was Mystic River. But then I went and I bought the movie on Amazon for $3 and watched it. It was a good movie, but it was the book was emotional. It was a lot more into it. Made the characters worse than they are. So
earlier, it was the beginning of maybe it was late 18, or maybe it was earlier this year, where I just really tried to start reading fiction a lot more. And I actually read probably about 5 times the usual pace for me in fiction. So I just, if you guys are like us, your library probably has a every so often book sale. And, you can go pick up some books pretty inexpensively if you don't just want to check out books. So I bought some, fiction. Worst case, if you don't want to have a library full of fiction, you just take it back to your library for the next book sale.
Right.
So I did read a good amount of fiction, for me anyway.
Right.
Within the last year, but not within the last, 4 months or so.
So when you go to fiction, what kind of fiction is it?
It tends to be like thriller. I should say like spy thriller, kind of a little bit of, covert stuff and save the world a little bit. But I did try to read just some straight, more personal crime stuff. I say crime stuff like, she doesn't know it, but she's with not only a weird guy, but he's charming and a good looking, of course, but he's actually a murderer and a rapist. Like that creepy stuff. And some of that I liked. And then there's a series called L.A. Confidential. I remember I read that, a couple books from them, where it's just kind of hey, this guy used to be in the military, but now he has that background, or CIA or whatever. Now he's got his own investigative firm, and they're all pretty good. It's kind of like, like a CSI thing where everybody's got their own little specialty, and there's the tech guy, and there's, everybody has a backstory, and they got a particular thing they need to solve for that book. So, obviously I shouldn't say obviously, but heterosexual single male. Do I read romances? No. No.
I don't even read romances.
Nothing against them. I'm just saying it's just not.
I'm just trying to think if I want a
those get built a little into those other books anyway.
And I don't like that part. Like I'm reading my my coffee shop one, and I start from the very beginning, and of course she's in a coffee shop. She has to live with her ex-husband, and the detective comes in, of course.
It says, "Would you like some hot mocha latte?"
Yeah. Well, the detective's married, and then he's getting a divorce, and then they end up together, and then she's like trying to be all sexy, and she's using her girl voice to be a boy, and she's like, I could slip this over here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, just get on with the murder mystery.
See, what I don't mind though is when they just go, well, someone's, they more of like the natural love thing, not the big syrupy romance scenes. And when they usually throw something in those regular novels, and I'm fine with that. Like
they
boys have been fond of so-and-so, and then later on they're saving each other's lives or whatever, and... maybe they have a nice date or something like that. Not like the really.
I'm not going to read Fabio.
Stuff. That dated us. Is there? Do they even make Harlequins?
I'm sure they still do.
They have to. I didn't know if it maybe turned into something else by now.
I don't think it's Fabio anymore.
Fabio. He had the biggest head. Like the head of a 1.5 times human.
I remember people are like, he's so beautiful, and you're like, no.
No, I'm not trying to say he was or was not. I'm just observing that he had a large head.
I'm just saying, no, he was not my type.
He had some great hair, though.
He did have great hair. Maybe I was jealous of his hair.
Long, flowing
Tyson
mane.
is swishing his hair around. He does not have long hair.
No long, flowing mane here.
He does have earrings, though. Okay,
news to me.
No, he does not have earrings.
I got drugged and got. What's in this drink?
All of his tattoos. Do you have tattoos?
I've got tattoos, but only if you have a black light. More fun that way.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. So, I enjoy reading. I enjoy listening to books. And I really do work very hard to try to focus, to listen and pay attention. And we talked about this before. What I've found is since I've started meditating and working really, really hard to concentrate, it's better for me. I'm able to listen better to the books because I'm training my brain to just do one thing at a time.
Yep.
And that's hard.
So what happened, a quick aside, is that remember that women specifically got tagged with this virtue of multitasking. I mean, it was the narrative, right? Where see, that's the. I mean, it was literally the joke going about between the genders, right?
Right.
It's like, well, that's because we can multitask and you can't. It's like, yeah, we suck at that, you know. And it became this like maybe too much of a virtue, right? Because you do need to. Sometimes we've gone, and especially because that was one thing in the late 80s and 90s, but now that we literally have a cell phone, a smartphone and a tablet and a computer screen, and any number of things can come up on the computer screen, including the main part of whatever you're looking at, 75 ads to the right, notifications up in the corner.
Right.
It's like, that maybe worked, but it's not a good idea anymore.
No.
You've got to, because you're going to have to multitask.
Right.
So what you should really don't, try to, what do you call that? Nurture that, because it's going to be there. You're going to have to but so what you need to do is try to nurture your ability to focus. Right. And that's why the meditation is so important.
I was going to say, yeah, because I my thing is that I do like 5 different jobs. And so I'm rebuilding my structure so that certain things are getting done on certain times. So I'm not trying to overlap it. So if somebody calls me and it's not that time, it's like, let's talk about that tomorrow, because I don't want to have to switch, because my brain does that. But it's so hard.
It's really not super productive. You
no,
think it is.
It's not.
And the other thing too is that, speaking of books, sometimes who didn't read Unlimited Power back in the day?
Me.
Tony Robbins?
Me.
So I've read some of those types of books. I can't remember if I read Napoleon Hill, but I've certainly had many of those types of books. But Unlimited Power I read, and some others. But one is, I've mentioned this before, a 4-hour work week. And one of his things is, if it's important enough to do, it's important enough to do right now. And actually, kind of seemingly ironically, it's important enough to do as quickly as you can.
Right.
Now that sounds weird, but if that's the thing that you prioritized, even if it's due next Wednesday, if what you're doing is doing it now, what we intend to do is add time to something that is due 10 days from now.
Right.
And so that's how he gets to at least the idea. And I've read the book. It's not about how much can I scam the system. Now, granted, he's talking about when it's more like a Kim type of a situation, where no one's trying to see if you're really working for 8 hours. All they care about is results.
Right, they just want.
So unless you get a remote working type of a situation, if you're on an 8 to 5 like me, it's pretty tough. You can apply some of the principles, but to your point then, it's about the focus. It's not about, no, bother me whenever. I'm always available. It's like actually trying to nurture, not to let that die away. Don't nurture that at all.
Right.
Try to keep your focus. Work on a certain thing at a certain time, literally shut down your email while you're doing something else. So it's along what you're saying, your ability to focus on your audiobooks, that type of thing. I know that went a little askew, but it's kind of along the lines of this advice that we're learning from our book.
Well, and I would love to be able to go get a book and read from a book, but I just don't have that in me. I haven't got that far yet, because I can't even watch TV, and I have to sit down and say, you're just going to watch TV. Don't get your laptop out. Just watch TV. And it's like about 40 minutes into it, and then I'm just grabbing my laptop. Next thing you know, I'm just kind of watching TV on my laptop, and whether it's Facebook or whether I'm making memes, because with Chemology, I make a set of 12 different memes. So I have to get those done, and I have these little things that get in here, and I'm like, no, I need to have schedule so that I'm doing my stuff. I'm doing my stuff more organized. And you are right. So to go to Dallas, I had to leave on the 6th. Well, everything had to be done before I left, and all the taxes and everything, and I got it done on the 5th. Normally, I get it done on the 10th. Because it takes me that long, but I started a week before in September, doing things that I normally don't do. Because normally I just sit down and just reconcile everything. But I was like, nope, I'm going to go ahead and reconcile what I have so far. Let's get everything in there so that when I get to it in October, I only have like a week left to enter all the stuff. And so it's training, and I've got to write it down. So with books, with the reason I started doing the audiobooks is I needed the motivation, and I need someone to tell me that what I'm doing is right. No one is telling me what to do. There is nothing in any of these books except that money is okay. I literally know everything. I'm like, I do that. Check. But when someone who is successful is telling me that that's what I need to do, that tells me I'm on the right thing. Because I'm a life coach for a lot of different people, so I know it, but I don't know it's true for myself. So that's why I picked those books. I've always wanted to be famous. I've always wanted to be a star. So to know about the stars of where their childhood and all that kind of stuff, that interests me. To meet them in person, I'm not starstruck. You're a human being. It's a whole different thing. But to have someone that famous, I want to know how they got to be where they're at today.
You were mentioning that when you were talking about a future show here a couple weeks back, and that struck me because I'm not into biographies at all. And it's kind of like what you said, but I'm not starstruck. Yeah. And so, but I'm really
starstruck. I'm famous struck. Like, I want to be famous.
Yeah. So I am missing those little, what is kind of incidentally motivational.
Right.
From, well, shoot, they said they were, renting, and then they were unemployed after being in a corporate career for 6 years.
Right.
And so at least it's incidentally, it's like, do I really need to read the book about how, by the way, I'm famous and that's why you bought my book and here's my story.
That's not.
And that's my tendency. It's like, and I just tend to read nonfiction, but that's nonfiction. My tendency is to want to read nonfiction with a supposed purpose.
Right.
Like, what's the question? And for me, it's like, well, where's the question? But you're right, I'm missing some stuff.
I was going to say, and being an introvert, I would think that you would want more of that stuff, because they're also, some of those people are introverts. And so I was on my trip when we went to Branson a while back, and a gentleman was on the trip, and he came up to me and he said, "Thank you so much." He goes, "I am an introvert, like a huge introvert. I haven't had a TV for 15 years. And I really enjoy your trips because you make them so comfortable. It's just a really nice feeling because I make everybody, I didn't know some of the people, they just get my emails. They signed up, they paid $500 and some $600, like literally paid it on a credit card because they get my emails. They never met me before to go on this trip. I meet them, they're just like family, and he was just like, so we did some stuff, and he didn't get a lot of sleep the night before. We had to change the day around, and he texts me and he says, "I'm not going to make it to the second show." I'm like, enjoy yourself. You don't have to do anything. You didn't want to come. I'm not going to force you to do it. And he had such a great time. But it was hard for him. He was like, I don't like to be around this many people. Like, I can't have someone sitting next to me. So he would get up and move. You know what? Go for it and do it. But I think if you read some of the books about that, then you're confident.
Yeah, I'm confident my own
with
way,
your way, but to reassure that it's okay.
Well, to your point, whether it's, how do you get out of the, how do you make your own breaks and things like that? I'm sure there are some of those incidental stories in there. It's not that he's saying how to make your own break by so-and-so star, but it's in the story. It's not him saying that's definitely the way that will work for you. But it's those different types of things. So you're right. I'm missing some of those from biographies, most likely. They just never, honestly, I've never been interested in even one biography, not even a little. I'm like, well, it's just one human. Who cares? I bet that doesn't sound weird, but I just come from such a logic Spock type of a mindset that I'm always thinking about ideas.
Yeah.
And then as the people come in that are surrounded by that, I kind of am interested in those people. but I don't care. Like if somebody said, this is the person who said that this theory that is really, mainstream, but it's really wrong. Like I'd be like, that person's great. Do I want to read his biography? Not at all.
Well, but like, okay, so like Steve Jobs.
Don't care. I just don't.
But,
isn't that weird? I mean, but it's different people have their books for different reasons.
Right.
And probably some people have all fiction or practically all fiction.
Yeah.
I know my sister, and I guarantee you, my sister learned a lot about history from literally historical fiction.
Right.
Because you still at least get it into your brain. And the funny thing about fiction is that a lot of the people who are fiction writers, they'll write about what they know, at least the setting.
Right.
So when I have read some fiction, it's like, well, this author's from New York City area, so a lot of it's around New York, which is obviously very historic, and so they'll be talking because it made sense to about the forts and the military institutes and the old installations.
Right.
And where they were, and you'll pick up some of that stuff just because you're reading fiction.
Right. And you wonder if it's real or not. Like, you wonder if the author actually did the research to put
like if somebody placed something
in
Northeast Kansas, you would pick a few great places and want to, because you're showcasing your area a little bit. And you go do some. So, even though some people have fiction, their whole bookshelf is practically fiction. Other people probably have 75% of their bookshelf is biographies.
Right.
Other people have some kind of a mix, cartoons or comic books. So bookshelves vary widely.
Yeah.
And you could even say, what is on Facebook, on social media, you could say, what is your general composition of your bookshelf?
Like, what does your bookshelf tell you? Mine tells me that...
Pickle tickling.
We're gonna. What is it?
They can grow rich while he.
That's right.
Well, he grow. I'm not going there. I can't.
Where's my thing? So we have defining our real great boss. Think you grow rich with beach money. The good daily practice is to tickle his pickle.
For the glory, for his glory.
For the glory.
Suddenly you have a year of miracles.
Yeah, a year of miracles. Yeah, most people would be like, wow, get your pickle tickled.
What you should do with your bookshelf is just do that for your... People are like, this does not look like Dewey Decimal or the Library of Congress classification system. Anybody could just for their own little, make it funny, put it... I think I'm going to do that. Lord knows I have enough material on the spines of books.
I was going to say, you need to make your own story.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to beat my tickle pickle story, but you could. And then
I don't have many... sex books.
But you could, I'm sure you could get a multiple amounts of books that together.
I just said I don't have many sex books. That really leaves a lot open to possibility still, doesn't it? I don't have 3,000 sex books.
I do have
I don't have many sex books.
That's funny.
Yeah, boy. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't have a lot. I say I've got 12,000 books. I only have 900 sex books. It's not a lot. I guess it depends. 1% of my 2 million books is sex.
Listen, I've only got 45 books on sex. And that's not many, but each of them are 375 pages. the big national... the big old Time Life format, where it's 17 by 14.
The big...
illustrated...
The table books, the big table books.
Right.
What is it, 50 Shades of Grey? Those are books, right? So I watched... So I watched Book Club the other day when I was down in Dallas. Bonnie and I, one of our shows was the Book Club. It's got Jane Fonda and some other friends in it. And their book club, they decided to do 50 Shades of Grey. And these are all women in their 60s and 70s. And one of the wives wants to have sex with her husband and he's just too busy. The other one is she's divorced, and so she just kind of goes out and has flings all the time. And there's this different, each of the women, one of them's husband had passed away, and she meets Don Johnson's character. I think it was Don Johnson. No, it's not Don Johnson. It's Antonio
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, so Don Johnson is Jane Fonda's
Right.
love interest. Anyway, so these women are reading this book, and the only thing I thought about is my friend Terry just really wanted us all to watch that stupid movie, and I've yet to watch it. I think my uncle had it, so I put it on our Voodoo account. So I think I have access to it. So one night I might just have to curl up in a little blanket and watch this 50 Shades of Grey stuff. Did you see that movie? Tom's even watched that movie. Like, guys watch that movie.
He didn't do it because he wanted to.
No, I probably did.
Well, maybe he did.
I mean, it's bondage sex stuff, so. But
Yeah.
but I'm thinking that the book is
See, regular
probably
guys
better.
don't want to know that, well, yeah, women will do anything for a billionaire. For a great-looking billionaire. Sorry.
Yeah,
It looks like Jamie Dornan.
no Hallmark movie there.
That's kind of the opposite.
I know, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, like who's gonna say no to that?
wearing plaid and loves puppies. So basically, we've decided Shades of Grey is basically the anti-Hallmark movie.
Right? Yeah, we're not. That's not gonna win any
No,
awards.
I haven't seen that, nor did I read the book or the series. There's
Yeah,
probably
and
a
I have
series.
not either. I didn't have any interest, but I might have to now, just so I can talk about it on here. We have to figure out.
See if you can make me blush.
We have to figure out. One time we have to do like a movie review. So we have to come up with a movie. We have to watch that movie, and then we have to do a podcast on the movie review.
Did I mention this last week? 2 weeks ago. We're about to finish, but here's one as a possibility. I had never watched Buckaroo Banzai. And everybody and their brother is in that movie. And anyway, it was like early 80s.
I have
But
never.
it is something else. I haven't got to watch all of it. I had it on Sling and thought I didn't need to save it. It looked like it was on demand.
Right.
Like all the time. Well, it was on demand then, so I'm like, okay, well, I'd watched it a few days in a row, just a little bit while I was doing things. And then I thought I'd watch more, and all of a sudden it wasn't on demand anymore. But Buckaroo Banzai.
Buckaroo Banzai.
It's the same guy, Weller, who was RoboCop in the original one.
Okay.
It has John Lithgow and a bunch of other people that you would at least recognize. I can't think of them right off the top of my head. So he's a rock star
Oh.
who's also a advanced scientist, and then also is the guy who does things like, pilot the rocket ship.
Oh.
And, it's like a multi-dimensional, threat and things. So it's kind of set in a parallel setting of about the 1950s. So it's pretty interesting so far. And it's, that might be one for us.
Yeah, we could do something. We have to pick out a movie, and we have to watch it, and then we have to review it of how we have to, but it's got to be something that's interesting and fun. Let's keep with fun. Not Hallmark movie.
It could be just a movie review excursion.
Yeah, oh definitely. Yeah. When we could do, there's a couple movies that you said that you haven't ever seen. So
yeah.
like Rocket Man,
Right.
and so I have all those. So I could let you borrow. I've got a collection of DVDs over there.
I'll look.
And we could pick out something that, because I watched Rocket Man twice and it's really good. A Star is Born.
I've seen that one.
You have seen that
the
one?
new one's great.
Yeah.
Total I mean, it's just heartbreaking in ways, but it's also great. Yeah, I love that movie.
So we'll do something like that. Maybe we'll figure something out. I still would like to put on a movie and watch it and do a podcast and tell the people what's going on.
Maybe I'm gonna have to smoke weed for only the second time in my life.
Hey, federal government is trying to get that stuff legal so they can charge you taxes. So we could,
on a day when it's free, when it's actually legal,
right?
Maybe we should do it once.
Yeah, once.
Well, I've heard that the first time it doesn't really have the big effect. Like you got to do it a second day or something. And I never did it the second day.
You never did it. You just do it the first day for all the time.
Like, well, that's no big deal. No, I just
you did
just
the first
one
time?
night, and it's like, well, that didn't have much of an effect. And then I hear later, it's like, well, sometimes first time doesn't have much of an effect. So I don't have an addictive personality as far as substances, so I wouldn't be under it wouldn't be any concern as far as starting some awful. Addiction, I'm sure.
I get bored.
Well, that was interesting. Then I'd be like, and that costs money then? Yes, not free. Okay, well, I probably won't do that a lot then.
Okay, so you talk about money. What do you, besides books, what are you okay spending money on? Besides just your, you have to pay your bills, you got to buy food, but what is it that you're just like to spend money on? Because you don't like to spend money on anything except books, unless you just get gifts of books. I don't know. Like, what is okay? Like something that's just kind of weird. That, like, mine, I'm okay with gambling. I don't spend tons of money.
Man. There's not much. I mean, it's just that I have a cushion in my budget so that I can usually go to lunch a lot. I mean, I don't like to go to dinner. Just instead of bringing food to work, I'll, for the most part, go out for lunch somewhere.
So that's kind of, it's not.
And that's a waste of money. It's truly a waste of money.
Yeah.
But that's about the only thing that I really regularly spend money on.
Yeah.
Is food that I don't really need when I can just bring my own sandwich.
Like I will drop $100 in the casino, but I'm like, I don't want to go spend my money at a restaurant because then I can't go to the casino.
The TP analogy from earlier.
Exactly. It's
Why
all
would
about
I
it.
spend $14 on expensive toilet paper when I could spend $5 on it and have $9 to do something else with? It's the same idea. Other people would say, well, why would I only spend $5? So some people would be like, no, I'm not going to waste my money on food. I need it for gambling.
Right.
And then vice versa.
I need it for gambling. I buy food. I just cook at home. I'm starving, but I'm going to go to the casino.
Okay, I overstated that. I meant at a restaurant. It's the casino diet.
It's the casino diet. Yeah. That's good.
Mama wants a hamburger. Shling, ching, ching, ching. Dang it. What about a half hamburger?
He's motioning. He hasn't been to a casino for a long time because he thinks you still pull the handle down.
I don't know. They don't at least build that into like the electronic ones? And that's such a classic.
Like every once in a while there might be a handle, but now it's just a button.
Just a button. That's not very fun.
I know. At least you're getting a workout.
Probably because they don't want the old folks to get some kind of repetitive shoulder injury.
People are getting carpal tunnel in their arm by pulling the thing down. I think I have carpal tunnel by hitting the button. I do. I have to go like this every once in a while. Hold my hand and click the button. I don't gamble that much.
Oh boy.
That's
no more
funny.
Not many one-armed bandits anymore, huh?
Yeah, well, everybody has an idea of what they'd spend money on, and I'm a very frugal person, so I don't spend a lot of money on much. But I will spend money because one of the things in my books that I read was if you don't spend money, you don't make money.
Yep.
And so you have to have that attitude of I can afford everything that I want, and then money comes to you.
Outlook of abundance, not scarcity. Yes,
correct.
Of course.
Yeah, definitely. So We have to go see the psychic. We have to watch a movie. We've got all these chores that we're gonna have. I mean, all these.
The psychic should be fun.
Yeah, we can go see. We can go see Joe.
I don't know. It might be embarrassing though, because I don't know what they'll find. That can be like kind of intimidating, you know.
Joe uses a play deck of cards. She's pretty good. She actually was the one who told my mom not to move out of her house because my dad came down and said, as long as she lives in that house, I'll protect her. And so because he built that house, and that's one of the reasons that my dad quit living, is because they were going to take his house for the medical bills, and he just decided to die. He just closed his mouth and wouldn't take any more pills, spit them out. I mean, he couldn't communicate anymore. He had Parkinson's dementia. So that was one of the things. He built that house. He wanted her to stay in the house. And my mom's now like, we need to get rid of this crap, and I need to move in town. Because she's in the country. It's a huge ranch house. And she's like, nobody comes out and sees me anymore. Like, well, I come out at Christmas.
Like, is it paid for?
Oh, yeah, it's been paid for.
That's huge.
Yeah. It's been paid for.
If I could change the world in one way, it would be that some of this, if you're going to spend trillions more than you actually bring in, at least it should go towards things like housing, so that giant expense of a roof over your head is over for people. Because then you have the security as you get older and are not making much money. I paid my house off like 6 years ago. Yeah.
So imagine that, to add that to your budget. Now, no house payment. Now what are you going to go spend your money on?
Oh, good point. I might be a casino person.
You could.
Yeah.
You could. That's what I did. As soon as that house payment was gone, the bills still come in. I still have to make just as much money because you do encounter more things that you do. My business built, so I have to make more money to keep the business going. Because before I wasn't, I didn't have a lot. I was a substitute teacher and I did a bunch of other odd jobs as well as my accounting. But yeah. So I got that. I took for 3 years. I spent, I think, $18,000. I saved up all my house payments for a couple years, and I remodeled the entire upstairs. Yeah. So I'm very smart and savvy.
I need to just get a hold of a real estate agent. I know we're far afield now, and because I know I pay more in rent than what my house payment would be. I just don't. I just hesitate at some of my older credit stuff, and I just need to get past that because I got to get into a house. And real estate's pretty inexpensive around here. Okay, we're far afield. Let's finish this baby up. We might go ahead and do an excursion. If we do, we'll attach it. It's going to be about nativity and some usual Tyson silliness around it. Just kind of a silly comic rant.
We'll do that on an excursion. All right, guys. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We appreciate our listeners and excited.
Thank you very much, everybody.
That this show keeps growing. Make sure.
That's important.
To make sure. Really? I'm going to say it one more time. Make sure to go to Kimology 411 and like our page. And please leave comments if you have anything. Refer back to the episode that you're listening to. This one is episode 9. I lost
Maybe
my page.
You shouldn't say it.
Episode 9.
Okay.
I this is episode 9, and we're talking about books. So tell us your favorite book. And you can come in even if you're listening to it a year later. Tell us your favorite book. We'll still be looking at it, and we'll maybe include it in an excursion. Thank you, Tyson, for helping make Kimology 411 so awesome.
You're welcome, Kim Possible.
And we will talk to you soon. And please make sure you keep taking all your awesome adventures. Bye-bye, guys.